If I were to ask you, can you tell me your instructional design process? Could you honestly detail out your entire instructional design process? If I told you, hey, I need an introductory module on the leadership styles and gave you some content and a SME to work with, would you know where to start? Or would you have a moment of overwhelm and panic? If you would have overwhelm and panic, don't worry, friend, I've got you. I'm here to help you today to really think through your instructional design process and get it down on paper. Hey friends, my name is Vanessa, the founder and CEO of Anchored Training, and on this channel, we help freelance instructional designers and learning and development professionals level up in instructional design, but also in business. Having a process is single-handedly one of the best gifts that you can give yourself as an instructional designer. It helps you know anytime that you start a project, you know exactly where you're starting and how you're going to get to the finish line. While the deliverable or the outcomes may be different, the how you get there and the process you take to get there can be the same. And I know you may be thinking to yourself, yeah, but I create all different types of, content. I create documentation. I create leaders guides. I create e-learning. I create all these other things. And these deliverables are all different. That's the beauty of learning and development, right? We create different deliverables. Everything is bespoke. In actuality, if you really stop back and you take a step back and really look at all the different ways and you mapped out your process and you looked at how you walked through developing all these different types of content, your process is your process. And in a service-based industry, when you want to ensure that every client has the same best experience time and time again, you have to sit and map out what your process is. Because if you ever want to scale, you're gonna have to train someone on your process and to do it just like you do. And to do that, you're gonna wanna have that all out on paper. And I know you're probably telling yourself right now, yeah, no, Vanessa, I have zero interest in ever bringing anyone on board. And friend, I'm here to tell you, I was also that same person. Contrary to what people may think, I did not want to have a business. And maybe want to have is strong. I didn't think I was going to ever have, right? When I went from working full-time and freelancing full-time and went to just going to freelance full-time and that was it. I LLC'd under a different name just because I thought that was what you were supposed to do, like someone recommended it. So I just LLC'd under a different name because that's what I just thought that you had to do. But there was really no intention of ever being anyone other than me. And I honestly really just thought I was going to do mostly work for my one big client and then, other little things here and there and just kind of see what happened. I had no real true big plans. Then a different opportunity presented itself and 5 years later, here we are, 7-figure agency that keeps going and going and going and hiring and hiring and hiring. I'll be honest, I no longer have my hands in all of the pots, right? I'm not in every single project from start to finish. I know what is happening on all my projects, but I'm not, in there every single day, like doing the thing and making sure everyone's, following the process and doing all the things. So while I have had to jump in and be all hands in, I am nowhere near as involved as I was before. And the only way I've gotten to this place and gotten to be comfortable is because I stopped and I mapped out my process on paper. Also, I have a really great team, which very much helps, but really being able to share the process on paper makes training and onboarding 1,000 times easier. But we all know this is what we do for a living. And I will tell you, the downfall of my agency a few years ago was the fact that my process was not written down on paper because I did not take the time to ever map it all out and be able to onboard people effectively. So it was a lot of mishaps, hiring, firing, and, muddling through me, jumping in, clients not being so happy on certain things and working crazy hours because we just didn't have our process down. And again, even if you have no interest in ever having a big agency or anything like that, or, ever bringing not even one person in, the idea of being able to take your process, map it out, and be able to hand it, that is something that ends up becoming some marketing collateral for you. It also ends up you're able to, map that into a project management system. So you're able to utilize a project management system to stay on time and on budget with your projects. There are just so many advantages down the line. And here's the beauty of having an agency. It takes the guesstimation out of so many things. First, how long a project is going to take. I can now tell you, based on knowing how much content we're going to have, based on length of content, based on knowing the type of deliverable that we're doing, how long projects are going to take. I have a good within a 2-week range, right? So I'm able to say between, 6 to 8 weeks, this will be done. I am able to really, get a handle of all the tasks that need to happen in order to get to each of the different milestones, and where my customers have to be involved and where I have to be more involved, or, like different members of the team, and where graphic comes in and how the pieces all get put together. And that template and shell is now in our project management system, ClickUp. And every time we have a project, all we have to do is copy one of those templates, fill in the details for that particular project, plug in the dates, and the timeline is built out. It's beautiful. The other beauty of having your process is you can direct your client on how you want feedback provided and what kind of feedback you need at this particular stage. And you can tell them what exactly to focus on, because you know all the stages that are coming later and when they're going to come in, that type of feedback is going to be useful in those stages. So for example, if you're just prototyping, there's just like an initial round, I don't want to know that a highlight or something was off by 1 millimeter. I don't need to know that right now. We're focused on the content. So like things like that, you're able to actually say like, I need you to focus right now on the audio script because we're going to go order voiceover. So instead of focusing so much on these colors and those types of things, because you're going to have the opportunity to look at that next, let's focus on the audio, really sit and marinate on it and make sure it's what you want, because when we go to voice it, it's going to be really expensive to have to do pickups later. Don't worry about the module not being locked down. It will get locked down at the very end when we're ready to swarm. We are just leaving it open for now for ease of review. For some reason, people always get tripped up on that, even though we're always telling them from the beginning. Don't worry about it right now. Or maybe you're like me and you have a line item where you have clients sign off on templates, because when customers make changes on templates at the very end, it causes such a mess, especially when you have a project with so many deliverables. So if you're doing, an onboarding series and you have 7 weeks worth of PowerPoint decks and they decide to change one seemingly tiny thing in the PowerPoint deck, it could affect all these other decks, right, from 7 weeks worth of content. So really being able to know exactly what is the purpose of each of the different tasks and their purpose of being there and their, what their directive is, will really save you in the long run. And then of course, if God forbid anything were to happen, right? So like, let's say you don't have no plans, right, of ever building an agency, but what if something were to happen to you, right? You got sick, or, you had to step away to take, you're on vacation, something came in and you asked a colleague or trusted friend, hey, can you just like jump in and do those things, do this little thing for me? That person can be able to do exactly what you need them to do because you have your process and they're able to step in on your behalf. I think by now I pretty much sold you on the need for a process. Let's help you get your process down on paper. So I want you to think about 3 projects you have worked on that have been the best projects you've worked on. And I want you to start from the very beginning, right? And map out each milestone, okay? And then each task under that milestone. So what a milestone is like the overall, like a roll-up, a huge roll-up task, right? When we're developing e-learning, we have a storyboard. It would be a milestone, right? So underneath that storyboard milestone, content outline received. Content outline, like reviewed by client, right? Writing storyboard, QC'd storyboard, update storyboard from QC, send storyboard to client, right? So those are all different tasks underneath the big milestone of storyboarding. So once you have that for each, project, and I suggest, putting them on 3 different like pieces of paper, or, mapping them out on like Miro or something like that on 3 different slides, or using PowerPoint and mapping them out, whatever you want to use. Take a look at them and say, okay, what are similarities and what are differences? And what worked really well here and maybe didn't work so well here? And I bet you're gonna find a lot of similarities. Then I want you to think about a couple of projects, and I just want you to sit and reflect on these. These are the ones that were some of the worst ever. What were some of the reasons? You don't have to map out your process, through those, because you don't want to repeat them necessarily, but just do a general reflection and a general thinking about them. Did you skip a part of your process? And Did you skip, did you allow for your boundaries, to get taken over, or you like worked a little too flexible? Really think about why those projects were just not for you. I know for me, a lot of projects in which I don't stick to my process and I don't stick to my boundaries end up being the ones I absolutely can't stand and I regret. Every single time I do not stick to my process and I give in, even just in the slightest, it ends up biting me in the butt later on. Once you have that work done, you can really map out exactly what your process is going to be and what works for your customers, whether internal or external. And so I want you to stop and think, what are all the pieces that worked out really well? What are some other projects that you've been on that you're like, I really liked when we did that, and I want to make sure that I start to integrate that into my process and start to map out those different processes. And then once you do that, I would vet it, against a close colleague and say, hey, did I miss anything? Even someone that's a project manager is a really great person to vet your process by, and just say, hey, did I miss anything? And then you've got your instructional design process. And here's the beauty about it. You are not married to your process. You can tweak it at any time. Heck, there are things that I will tweak now because I get burned on something and I'm like, you know what? I want to add this piece. I want to add this sign-off form because it's something that I've been wanting to do. And I want to make sure that we have official signature that, the customer signed off on the project. You can continue to refine and tweak it. You can throw something completely out the window. This is the beauty. You can do you. You can do whatever it is that makes you happy. So if in, a year's time, it's not working for you anymore, don't continue doing that process. Reflect what's not working and make those tweaks. I will tell you, I had one process years ago and I ended up refining it years later, and I've even refined it again recently. And for one customer where we do all of their e-learning, I basically run that department, same thing. I had one process, I changed it, and here's the funny thing. I'm actually thinking about changing the process again and reverting it closer back to that original process. Crazy, I know. Well, friends, you didn't think that my title was clickbait, did you? I am actually launching the Anchored Instructional Design Process course. And in this course, you will literally see inside my business. I am literally taking and giving you the keys to the kingdom and saying, here is my process, here is how we do things, here is how we get from point A to point B to point Z. Why? Because I believe in this process. I believe that this works. And I know that it can work for you too. I have used it on instructor-led projects, virtual instructor-led projects. I've used it on e-learning. I've used it on documentation. This process works. So if you're interested in joining the course and learning my ID process, click the link below to learn more about the program and take a look at our open house, which gives you all the details and all the insight into the course. Hurry up because we are setting sail February 6, 2023, and this launch pricing will only be available this round. I can promise you this is not a sales gimmick. This pricing is only going to be available this time. The amount of content I am giving away in this course is insane. And the price that I'm giving it away at right now, it's like I'm giving it away for free. So check it out. Friends, I hope to see you in the course, and I will see you in our next video. Bye.